Hello, this is Kevin Bowersox, creator of the blog 2Thought. In today's tutorial, we will explore another method of mapping inheritance with JPA, the Inheritance Annotation. In a previous post on inheritance, we leveraged the map superclass annotation to configure an inheritance relationship within our object model. As you will see in this tutorial, there are limitations to that method. However, we can overcome those limitations by using the inheritance annotation. If you would like to view the previous tutorial, on my webpage, you can click on JPA to view all of the posts by JPA, and you will see the inheritance with mapped superclass annotation. Now, we will go over what was covered in that tutorial briefly, so I can show you some of the limitations of that annotation. As always, the code used to start this tutorial is contained in this GitHub repository, and the completed code can be accessed by looking at the GitHub icon below the post. To give you some context, let's briefly review our data model, and also we will review the object model. So we're looking at the data model for the 2Thought tutorials, and within that model we have the post table. And within the post table, you'll notice we have this content URL and then some columns that relate to the post being a blog post. And now let's head to our object model and let's view the post. And when we look at the post, we see obviously some fields there. We have a few lists, and we have the post part. And we also see that we have an abstract post that we're extending. We don't see some of the other columns mapped to a field that we saw in the data model. So for instance, we don't see a title, we don't see an author. Those fields are not present on the post class because they're contained in the abstract post class. So there we see the ID for the table and the entity, the title, and actually the authors contained in this stamp. And what we'll also see is we have a content post. Now this is something that just links to a post that basically links to another resource on the web. So it just has this content URL, but we see that it also extends abstract post, so the entity will include the fields on the abstract class because it is defining that inheritance relationship. And then up here we see that we have the @mapped superclass annotation, which is what allows us to do this. So when we have fields that we want to share across entities, we can use the mapped superclass annotation in certain situations. One situation we cannot use it in is when we actually want to put the abstract post in another entity as a list, or any sort of association. It won't allow that. So that's what we're going to look at today. How do we overcome those limitations within our object model through JPA mappings? To demonstrate the limitations of mapped superclass and to show you the capabilities of the inheritance annotation, I'm going to introduce a problem. So we have these posts, and we would like to be able to organize them into a series of posts. So in other words, we're going to have a series object. So I'm going to create a new table, and I'll call that table series, and then we're simply going to have a series ID. We'll make sure that is an auto number, and it will have a title, and it will also have a description. So we just created the series table, and that will contain each of our series, and then the series will consist of a bunch of posts. So that means we need to alter our post table by adding a link to the series ID for which it is a part of. So we'll add that. I'll apply the changes, and just for fun we'll set up a foreign key. And our foreign key is set up. So our data model is ready to handle linking a post to a series or multiple posts to a series. So now we need to make those changes in our object model. So we'll head back to STS, and here we'll need to make the changes in the post entity, and we'll also need to introduce a new series entity. Let's start by first creating the series entity. So within the entities package, we want to add a new class with the name of series. We need to annotate that class with the entity annotation. We also need to give it the table annotation. We'll import those two. Now we have some fields we need to add. A series ID of type integer, a string name title, and a description. These will also need to be annotated. First with the ID annotation, we need to say that our ID is being generated by the database, and we'll also need to add the column annotation. I cannot type today. Let's import all those annotations. We will also annotate the title field with a column, and we'll do the same for description. Okay. Now we will generate the getters and setters, and we should have a properly annotated series entity. And now we need to make the changes to the abstract post so that it includes a series. And this will be a many-to-one because one post can have many series. We'll import that annotation. And we need to specify a join column since the post is the owning side of the entity. And we will use, let's import it first, we will use the series ID on the post table as our join column. So we can save that. And we also need to generate getters and setters for the new series field. Format, and then since I'm using Spring Data, I'll need to create a new interface. I'll call it series repository. I will extend JPA repository. I will specify the type of the entity as series and the type of the key as integer. Okay, we'll import the series entity and we'll save. At this point, let's head over to series and we'll save that also. At this point, we would be ready to test. To test, I'm going to leverage one of our previous tests that we created in another tutorial, and that's the abstract post repository test. Within this test, you'll notice that we have a post repository and a content repository, and then we have two tests, one that inserts a regular post, one that inserts a content post. The reason being is we can't really truly leverage inheritance at the moment. We have to have these separate repositories to store these different entities because they're of a different type. We will overcome that limitation using the inheritance annotation in a little bit. But first, let's demonstrate the problem. So we will auto-wire a series repository, and then we will pull a series from our database, and at the moment we don't have any data in the series table, so we'll need to do that to accommodate our tests. So let's just add a row in the series, make a JPA series, and we'll add that in. So now that row's inserted, we have some test data. So now when we use the repository to pull a series, we will get a series back, and we'll set the series on the post. And I'm just going to do this for a regular post. I'm going to run this test. Hope we get some green, and we do. So let's head to post and see if we got a series updated. Yes, we did. So we're able to perform the insert, but let's see what we can't do now. We have properly configured the JPA annotations to insert a post that specifies a series. Now the issue is going to be if we use the post within any associations. So we'll need to head to the series entity, and at that point we're going to make this relationship bidirectional. So at one to many, and it's going to be a private list of posts. Actually, I'm going to use an abstract post because it could be either one of our post types that are included in the series. Maybe there's a content post and maybe there's a regular post that we'll be using. So I imported list, and now we need to specify the mapped by, since this is not the owner, and this is mapped by the series. And now we need to create a test to see if we can pull the posts for a particular series. So I will create a new test, and we will call this the series repository test. And I'm going to head back to our other test to steal some configuration. Don't like how that's formatted. Okay. And let's modify this test to a find one test. And now we want to grab a series. After we auto-wire our repository. That is not what I wanted. Okay. So we use the repository to find the series we created. And now I just want to assert that the series actually has a post. Oh, and I forgot to add the accessors in here, so we'll generate those. Now we have our accessors in the series, so I can call get posts, and I want to check that the size of the list is greater than 0. Save that. I'm going to have to import JUnit. Let's head back down there, and let's run our test. And you'll notice that our persistence context didn't even build. So we obviously have an issue, and this is the limitation of the mapped superclass annotation. As soon as we put that post into this one-to-many association, we're toast. We cannot rely on mapped superclass, so we need another method to model that inheritance that allows us to have the associations to the abstract post or to a post in other entities, and that's what we'll explore next. So I'm going to clean up some of these windows, and I'm going to head back into the abstract post, and within the abstract post I'm going to remove the map superclass annotation, and we will first make this an entity, and we will also add the inheritance annotation. And on the inheritance annotation, we specify a strategy, and we are going to use a single table strategy. And what the single table strategy means is that both the content post and the regular post will be stored in the same table. If we look at our data model, we can look at the columns and see that the content URL, which is a part of the content post, is included with all the columns for regular post. We'll be storing both the regular post and the content post in the same table. Now, some records will have null values in certain fields. For example, a regular post will have a null content URL. That's part of the single table strategy. So we just have to kind of accept that fact. Next, we will add the table annotation. We have to give it a name, and that'll be the post table. So we'll import that. And now we need to specify a discriminator column. Let's import that annotation, and we'll specify the name of the column as post type, and we will specify the discriminator type as a string. And what this means is the discriminator column allows JPA to distinguish between a regular post and a content post. And we'll need to add that column into our data model. So I'm going to alter the post table and add the post type column, and I'm making it a varchar because we specified that it was a string. So that's how JPA can distinguish between the two types of entities, even though they both extend this abstract post. Okay, now we will need to head into the post, and on the post we need to specify a discriminator value. And did I spell it wrong? Okay, let's see. We need to specify the value, and we're going to just put regular. So this is what will be stored in the discriminator column when we store a post. And now we need to do the same thing to a content post. So we'll add the discriminator value annotation, and we'll give it a value of content when it is a content post. So with that set up, we can now run our test. Whoops. And we see we still have an issue. So I'm going to go back. I think the issue is on the abstract post. And that would be it. You can see I didn't save the abstract post. So now let's go back after saving the abstract post and run our test. And we see it failed. Let's see what the issue is. You can see this time the persistence context loaded. Okay. I'm wondering if we need to specify a type in the actual post itself. So let me go in, and that won't allow me to edit the data. So we're going to head to the post with a series ID marked, and I'm going to go into the post type, and I'm going to mark this as a regular post, and we'll save that. Let's try our test again. Okay, and this time it ran. So as you can see, we already had saved that record prior to having our inheritance annotation in place. So we did not have a value in the discriminator column. So JPA threw an issue, threw an exception when it noticed there was no value in the discriminator column when we were trying to retrieve the post from the series. So we can see that the inheritance annotation solved our problem there. I want to take another look at one of our other tests, the abstract post test, and show you another benefit of using the inheritance annotation as opposed to the map superclass annotation. So let's take a closer look at this test. And the first thing I notice is we have a series repository and a post repository. And then we have two tests. One inserts a regular post, the other inserts a content post. And they have to do that through different repositories. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to use a single repository to insert those. And I'm going to create a new repository, so I need to make an interface, and I'm going to call this abstract post repository. Remember, we're using Spring data, so we need to implement or extend the JPA repository interface, and we need to specify the type of our entity, and that's an abstract post. Notice I'm using the base class, and now I need to give the type of the ID. Okay, so we have this new repository that uses the abstract post, and I'm going to go into the test now and add, I'm going to auto wire the abstract post repository. Okay, whoops. So let's import that, and it would help if I would give that a name. So I'm just going to call that the repository. And now in our tests, let's replace the specific repositories with the abstract post repository. Okay, we'll save that, and let's try running our test. Okay, green, that's what we like to see. And let's head into the console, and I want to show you something. I have the SQL debugging on, so Hibernate will show me the SQL it's using. And notice when it did the two inserts, JPA specified the discriminator column value that corresponds with the type of entity that it is inserting into our database. So that's a nice little feature, and we kind of see how the discriminator value and discriminator column come into play. So let's back out of there. The final thing I want to show you is how JPA utilizes the discriminator value and discriminator column during a select. So we're going to go into the post repository test, and I'm going to make a new test. And I'll give that a name. We're just going to find a new post. Not sure what the repository name is here, just regular repository. And I'm going to specify a post that doesn't exist. And I just want to show you what happens when it tries to perform the select. Okay, so our test ran. Let's look at the console. And here we see the select it's issuing to the database with our find one statement. And you can see, because we were using the regular post repository, JPA prefixed the SQL statement with a where clause that distinguishes the post type as regular. So we get the proper type of entity back. Now on the abstract post, you're not going to get that benefit, and you're going to have to type the entities yourself. So that's just another way and another example that we can see the discriminator type and discriminator value coming into play. Okay, so just to recap, we created a series which can have multiple posts, and because we did that, we needed to modify our abstract post to not use the map superclass annotation, which does not allow our entities to be used in an association. And the annotation that we turn to is the Inheritance Annotation, which also requires us to specify a discriminator column on the actual abstract entity, and also a discriminator value on the entities derived from our abstract class. And once we did that, it allowed us to really utilize inheritance within Java. So that is all for this post. I want to thank you for viewing it. It's been my first post in a while, and I'm glad to be back. I hope to continue in our next tutorial looking at using a different strategy other than the single table strategy. Explore some of those. So as always, thanks again, and I'll see you next time.